Welcome back to the Mark Moses Show, only right here on Sports Radio 95.9 The Fan. And right now here on the Club 52 hotline, good friend of mine who covers LSU and the SEC for Tigers Sports Digest. His name is Ben Love. We're going to talk a new season of SEC and SEC Media Days. Ben, how you doing today?
Mark, I'm great. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing just fine. And you were just at Media Days there in Hoover, Alabama. How crazy was it this year, 2014, for the Media Days?
To be honest, I think it was tame compared to a number of other years. I mean, it's not ever going to be what it was last year with Johnny Manziel. I think that's the zenith of just drama and, just over hype and over everything, over scrutinization. I don't anticipate it'll be like that ever again. But it wasn't even like years before where you've had Heisman Trophy winners come, Tim Tebow, Mark Ingram. Some of the players seemed a little more low profile. I don't think everybody bought all their biggest guns, and then there just wasn't a whole lot of drama. So, hey, if you're around as last year.
Here's the thing. We know the coaches have their star power. Are there any stars in the SEC for football players, or do we have to wait for the season for those stars to emerge in this conference?
No, I think we have those stars, but, the last couple of years, those stars have played quarterback. It's very easy to kind of have that household name and that brand recognition behind a McCarron, a Murray, even toward the end, Mettenberger, obviously Manziel. But this year, those guys play different positions. Todd Gurley at running back, I think, is as good as it gets, and he was over there today at the Winfrey speaking with Georgia. But hey, look, a lot of the other players are defensive, and so it's one of those things where there are a lot of great players in this league. There's a ton of players that will go on to the NFL, just like we see every year. But they just don't play quarterback. It's you got to get used to some different positions and a couple of new faces.
Was it weird being there? And I'm talking with Ben Love with Tiger Sports Digest, talking about SEC Media Days. Is it weird it's the first time in, almost a decade where the conference is not the defending champion? Because I know the SEC likes to talk a lot about that.
Well, I think there was still a good bit of crowing that was going on. And you're right. Anytime you're denied of your eighth straight, it's a little bittersweet, but at the same time, the run's been pretty good. When I say crowing, I think back to Bill Hancock yesterday, talking about the playoff that's coming up and running through scenarios that, had the playoff been in place for 2006, this would have happened. Same for 2011, so forth and so on. He gave a number of examples. A lot of those examples included years where the SEC would have gotten two into the Final Four. So did they win it last year? No. Is that ever going to be done again, 7 straight? I don't think so. Probably not in my lifetime. But at the same time, they're looking at the fact that going forward, they want to get two teams into this playoffs as many times as they can. And history says the SEC is capable of it.
We're here with Ben Love, Tiger Sports Digest. Follow him on Twitter at BenLoveTSD if you like LSU or the SEC. What about the other big headline from Media Days, the SEC Network? Was that just shoved down your throat that it's coming in mid-August? I mean, what were your thoughts on the network?
Yeah, a little bit, and that's to be expected when you go up to the SEC's home near Birmingham and you kind of invade their territory. Of course, you expect to kind of hear about it. But I'll tell you, Mark, down in Louisiana, the big news was getting Cox on board. That's one of the biggest missing links, along with DirecTV, that people who usually follow LSU sports were kind of got to make sure that their ducks were in a row, so they didn't have to change. Les Miles even joked about it yesterday. He said he congratulated Commissioner Slav on the Cox deal and also thanked him. So now I don't have to change my cable provider. So, look, it's obviously going to be a huge deal. It'll continue the amount of exposure that the conference gets through all sports. It'll continue and increase the revenue split that all these 14 schools are going to get. So I think it's all a good deal. The only slippery slope, and I don't know that this was discussed a ton this week, but it'll be a big topic. These networks are going to want to control how, when, and where these SEC teams play their games. And so your marquee East-West games will be earlier in the year a lot of times than they were traditionally. And there's other ways that they'll move you around as far as time in the day. LSU loves to play the night games. They're not going to have their choice a lot of times. So it's, I think you take the good with the bad, but ultimately it's going to bring more money around. And is an age where you may eventually start paying players. It's good to have that extra source of revenue coming in. Yeah,
it's a good point. Ben, what about your guy, Les Miles? I know he likes to talk in front of that microphone. What were some of the comments he said recently at Media Days?
He's got a really young offense coming over, and so there were questions about not only his quarterback situation, where he'll either choose a sophomore or a true freshman. You look at the running back position. LSU's got a couple of veterans, but Nobody's got as much hype and expectations as Leonard Fournette, and he compared Leonard Fournette to Michael Jordan on numerous occasions yesterday. So, that's setting the bar about as high as it gets for sports. So, there were some interesting things from Les. He probably drew the biggest laughs when talking about I don't know if you call it a vacation, but a trip that his family took to Austin to go see his daughter who's over there. So, last year it was kind of doing his Australian voice when talking about his punters and kickers, and this year it's a trip to Austin. So, the guy he finds a way to rivet people and I guess make them laugh.
Is he always a character? I know you probably interviewed him one-on-one. Is Les Miles always like that, even off the microphone? I
think in looser moments, yes. In the heat of battle, when you catch him in and around game time, and I'm talking about even right after games a lot of times, he's a pretty intense guy, and he gets into those games and is as competitive as anybody. So I don't know that he's always 100% kind of loosey-goosey like that, but he loves diffusing some of the tension and controversy or whatever's around his team in press conferences, especially by doing that. I've always kind of referred to it as spinning his yarn for the locals, and then look, people in Louisiana for the most part laugh it up, and he's just so off the wall, and you can't kind of believe what he just said that you can't help but pay attention and be interested for what's next.
We're here with Ben Love. Tiger Sports Digest is the website covering LSU and the SEC. Follow him on Twitter at Ben Love TSD. You just brought up how the coach said Leonard Fournette is like Michael Jordan. This guy was the number one recruit in the country coming to LSU. There was hype already. Now is he just blown the roof off on the hype for this kid coming up this fall?
I think he has. He wasn't the only one yesterday, and he didn't directly compare him to Michael Jordan, but he just put him in the same breath as far as a young prodigy that comes along and how he has to be developed and how they both have similar work ethics and approaches, their discipline. But Terrence McGee, senior running back, was there yesterday in media days. He had a number of great things to say about Fournette, and that's really the kid that he's been kind of told by Frank Wilson, the running backs coach, he needs to mentor. So McGee has spent a lot of time with Fournette and says that he's absolutely electrifying in 7-on-7. He thinks it'll make a huge difference right away, and McGee showed he kind of was indifferent toward who gets the carries and how they get it done. He just wants to win games. So Leonard's a great kid. He's a special talent, but I think he comes in at a special time too, and one that's kind of right for him to. They can usher him in a little bit with two senior running backs, Terrence McGee, Kenny Hilliard. But I think by the time SEC play goes along, he could be that Jeremy Hill type lead back and that bell cow in the LSU backfield, even as a freshman.
Did you see? Wait! I know you're going to know the answer to this. Was it Jeremy Hill who has that new tattoo where his back is the stadium with the tiger and him? Is that him?
Yeah, it is Jeremy Hill. That's pretty wild. I saw that as well.
Oh, man, that is the most insane. We have that on our website, sportsradio959.com, if you want to check it out. It's the most insane tattoo. It's not Kaepernick crazy, but you have to agree, right, Ben? That's one of the most insane tattoos you've ever seen.
Oh, it's Tiger Stadium to scale. And if I remember right, there's like a B-52 bomber flying over the stadium. So he's got like the flyby going on his pad. It's pretty aggressive, no doubt.
Oh, man, that's awesome. What about the quarterback position for LSU? I know Les Miles, he was probably asked about this. You got Brandon Harris and this Anthony Jennings guy. Is this an open competition, or has one guy gotten the starting nod? I mean, what's going on?
It's definitely open. In my opinion, there's a guy who's ultimately going to win it. It's kind of just a question of when, not if. And to me, that guy is freshman Brandon Harris. He did himself a lot of favors by coming in as an early enrollee. Really outplayed Jennings in the spring game, and I think he kind of carries some swagger and a little bit of mojo into this fall camp. And Harris is the guy who spent time, I believe, with George Whitfield over in San Diego for a while this summer, so he continues to get tutelage from the best. He is playing around some of the best quarterbacks that are out there, and they all have great things to say about him. So I think that Harris is the guy that kind of has the better pedigree, can run a little bit better and quicker and more decisively than Jennings, and throws a better deep ball. Now, with that said, Jennings has his upside, and he's probably a little more accurate right now. He played in a couple of games for LSU last year, rescued him in the Arkansas game pretty famously. So they've got two good options. That's how they look at it, but they're both inexperienced. I think they may start Jennings in game one, but to me, like I said, it's a matter of time before Harris takes over, and I think he takes the most snaps behind center this year.
What about this defense real quick? I mean, it's always five-star athletes all over the field for Les Miles' defense. What about this crew here in 2014?
it'll be as good as it's had since 2011. And that defense was extremely special. Took them to a national championship. I don't two bookends and Jamari Rasco and Daniil Hunter that can be as good as it is in the SEC. I feel the same way about the cornerbacks, Tre'Davious White and Rashard Robinson. And Rashard's down there from Pompano Beach in Florida, same high school as Peterson. So, they're steadily kind of getting the pipeline to continue DBU. And I think this is a big year for the LSU secondary. They'll be awfully good in 2014. The linebacking core, I think, can be good as well. It's just going to take a little time to get some new pieces together. So I think that unit will carry a young offense that's kind of getting their footing as Brandon Harris, Leonard Fournette, and Malachi Dupree at receiver kind of get their feet under them.
We're here at Ben Love, Tiger Sports Digest. Follow him on Twitter at BenLoveTSD. Before I let you go, I took Bama and South Carolina. That was my pick. I know Nick Saban's yelling at people for getting this wrong every year, but what about you? Who do you think are the top two teams who will probably go to Atlanta?
I went with Georgia and Auburn, and it was an uneasy pick for me on both sides. I think the East is obviously not as strong as the West, but the top is very close and competitive to me between Georgia, South Carolina, and even Missouri, bringing back Matty Mock at quarterback. So I ended up going Georgia, South Carolina, Missouri in order. And in the West, I think Nick Marshall is the best quarterback in the SEC. Behind Todd Gurley, he may even be the best player. I just don't know if their supporting cast is good enough. More importantly, Auburn finishes at Georgia, at Alabama. So that's as hard as it gets in the SEC. If they can get past those games, I love their talent. I just don't know if the schedule's set up. But I went with Georgia, Auburn, but it was kind of uneasy, like I said.
All right, bonus question real quick, and this is a stupid one. How many LSU fans were paying attention to the A.J. McCarron, Catherine Wen wedding from over the weekend? You got to let me know.
I haven't heard many, but the ones that were interested weren't interested in A.J. Let's leave it there.
Everything was, Bama cake, Bama this, Bama that. I was like, other people don't care about Bama. You know that, right? Oh, man. His name is
Don't tell them that. Don't tell them that.
I know. Ben Love, Tiger Sports Digest. Ben, appreciate the insight, and I hope I can get you on again.
Absolutely. I enjoyed it.